Hello everyone, I'm Jinpeng Liu, and here's Nat Quick, my interviewee today. Nat Quick is primarily a guitarist and also a music teacher, a musician living in Richmond. So, can you give us a brief introduction of yourself, like mm, how you engage with the music in your life, just generally?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Nat Quick, like Pung said.
Mhm.
I'm a guitarist and music teacher. I teach guitar, bass, ukulele. I teach some music theory. And I play in several bands in Richmond. I play in a rock band called Piranarama, and I play in a sort of a experimental folk music band called Rumput with Professor Andy McGraw from University of Richmond. Um, and various other projects that come up now and then.
Okay, so thank you for your introduction. And um, my next questions kind of like go deeper into what you just talked about with yourself. I'm just like kind interesting about what is your life of being a musician looks like.
Yeah.
So more specifically about what you actually do every day. Where do you work, and especially as a musician in Richmond, and also I think a music teacher, and um, like also how do you make living from the music?
Sure. Well, right now, I teach at a guitar shop in Northside called 1-3 Guitar. And they have a couple of lesson rooms. They do repairs, they sell guitars and things like that. So I guess like day to day, when I go to work, I might spend some time behind the counter selling people strings and like stuff that they need for their guitars, or like if they bring their guitars in for repair, like I know a bit about that, so I like help them get tell us what they want done. But then when I'm teaching, I have a lot of students who are adults who are just kind of coming in after work, who have always wanted to learn to play guitar, or maybe they've been playing for a long time and they need some direction, things like that. So I make, that's how I pay rent. I'd say like the teaching and doing like the salesperson thing is how I pay rent. Um, and then there's other things I do that are more for the love of it, like the bands that I play in. Sometimes there are paying gigs, but a lot of times, if we get paid, we put that money right back into making albums or travel to play other gigs, stuff like that. Um, I've worked at several music stores in Richmond, and I've also done some like building instruments before too. So I kind of do a little bit here, a little bit here.
But
Yeah.
I would say like it all starts from like a single point, right? It's like from the music you like um it's like what you did a bit at the start, and then kind of just um go to and explore the very different directions.
Yeah, I guess so. Like how I first started working in music. Okay. Let me think about this. So, a very long time ago, when I was in high school, I was taking guitar lessons with my teacher. His name is Mickey Henry, in Maryland, and I wanted to learn all kinds of music, and he played gigs regularly. Like he'd go play places where he'd get paid for it. So when I was a teenager, he and I was a student of his, he invited me to come play with him, and he'd actually pay me. So we'd go to like a resort, and he'd be the music for the evening. So I'd learn all the songs, and I'd go with him and play there, and then he would give me some cash after, and that was great. I was in high school. It was fun and exciting for me, and it kind of gave me a taste of like how to be a professional and play music. Yeah. So that was like very early on. I was probably 15 through 17 when that was happening. And then later, I went to music school, and while I was in music school, a shop opened on Main Street near VCU called Fan Guitar and Ukulele. I actually went in there to buy a guitar, and they asked me if I would like work there. So it was kind of
like being a staff or like a teacher?
Both actually. It was a very small store, so I would do some retail and also teach. It was kind of like whatever was needed. I would also do some repairs, like I'd restring people's ukuleles and guitars and things like that. So very small store. Just owned by a couple. And then there was me. And later they expanded, but at the time it was very small, and so I'd do like a little bit of everything. And so that was where I started teaching first. I was teaching ukulele lessons. And I actually learned to play ukulele to teach. It's like a very small guitar. So
yeah, I know.
yeah. So that was kind of where I got my first introduction to like teaching. And I love music and I love playing music. A lot of the time, I'm learning what my students want to learn. I may not necessarily be, the biggest Taylor Swift fan, but if my student is, I'm excited to help them learn that song so that they want to play. So a lot of times the music that I'm playing day to day isn't necessarily the thing I'm passionate about, but I am passionate about helping other people learn enough music so that they can play what they're excited about. I love to play, there's lots of music I do enjoy playing, but when I'm working, that's not necessarily what I'm doing. It might be how do I help that person play what their favorite music is. Sometimes that makes me like it too. Other times not. That's okay.
Yeah. It just sounds like a lot of things are going on with your music experience.
Yeah.
And so, have you gotten a place where you kind of be start to be like a more professional or like a more formal teaching of the music right now, or
I'd say, yeah, I'm in a more formal place right now. Like, people will come to me very specifically because they want to learn, like, finger picking, or they want very specific things. Like, they know that I teach guitar, they know that I teach ukulele. And so when they're coming to me, it's for my knowledge on that, I guess. It's less random. It's more like they know what I do.
So you do more like private teaching right now? Right?
Private teaching, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I've also taught some group classes in the past, which is kind of its own, a very different experience. That's more of a community kind of thing. I've taught guitar ensemble at St. Catherine's for the lower school, and I used to do a ukulele group for senior citizens for Chesterfield County. And that was more like a big group of people who like to play together. So that was like a little bit different. Right now it's mostly private lessons.
And I also have like another question on that. It's like, so for this many, music experiences, and I can see that some of them are very, unpredictable.
Yeah.
And so during this process, do you kind of feel like, a sense of uncertainty in your music life? And if you do, or if you do now, what do you think is the biggest reason for that? I would like, I guess that's kind of related to the sense of the community, right?
Yeah. So okay, here's a difference. It is kind of uncertain. Sometimes people will come in for a lesson and they'll want to learn a song I've never heard before, or they will be into music that I'm not familiar with. And I think when I first started teaching, that was a very scary thing. I'd feel very nervous if I didn't know how to answer that question right away. And now that I've been teaching for a long time, it's easier for me to learn a song very quickly. But also, I can sit with my student and go, let's listen to this together. Tell me what you like about this. What part of this, it's fun for me to, especially if it's music that I'm not familiar with, to listen with my student and go, okay, what is it about this song or this band that you're excited about? And they might say like, oh, they're really loud, or like, or their lyrics, this person's lyrics really like speak to me. And that helps me kind of figure out how to approach learning the song with them, and also how to connect with them, I guess. So I'd say like, it can be very uncertain. I get new things thrown at me all the time, but it's less scary for me now than it used to be. And maybe that's me having been a teacher for a longer time. I can encounter new music, and it doesn't, it's not as scary to try to teach it.
Right. Yeah, it sounds like very special and interesting because like I've read some of the comments in your website, like they talk about your lesson
Yeah.
and they said like it was very interesting and the approach you use is very special and just basically makes the music more fun for them.
Cool. Yeah.
And I've like reviewed some of your teaching videos, like tutor videos, and at first I just thought like it was uh, very clear and straightforward, but like after hearing you like the actual experience and how you approach this for the students, I think it's like very very special and very I would say like customized for
Thanks.
Everyone.
That's what I try to do. I'm glad it comes across that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So, can you talk more about your instruments and your music genre? Like, there's gonna be like a certain thing in music like you were like about. I would say maybe that's the guitar for you, and maybe a music genre like classical or like a rock for you.
Yeah.
Or you can say that's like all kinds of music, like whatever your students
Sure.
like. I don't know, but just can you give me more, the description or how do you feel about the music you engage with, from a more musical side, maybe?
Yeah. So I'll say in college I studied classical guitar, and I like classical guitar. But what I really like to do is play rock music, or that's what I do a lot of the time. I think, and I also play. I also have studied a lot of Indonesian music, gamelan and keroncong, which are two styles. Along with whatever my students are bringing me, I'd say that I like a lot of different genres and bands, but one of the things that I really like about the music I listen to is rhythmic complexity. I like it when there's a confusing rhythm going on, or like, or just I guess my ear is drawn towards rhythm. I think as an interest more than notes, maybe.
Melody?
Yeah, more than melody. I think I like texture more than melody. So, trying to think of like a good example. So like, so just like with guitar, if somebody's finger picking, just like folk music, I think the sort of the complexity of what their individual fingers is playing is more interesting to me than like strumming. I like to hear something like more intricate. And also the way that different instruments in a band interlock, I think is very interesting. So it's always like if there's some layer of texture, that's what I like to hear. I think even just like what drew me to the guitar first was hearing the scratchy sounds of fingers on strings. I thought that was interesting, and I wanted to know what that was. Guitar solos are cool too, but it's not like it's not the part that I'm most excited about. I like the sort of how do things lock together in relation to each other. I started out playing flute and saxophone when I was a kid, and those were cool, and I like how they sound. But the first time I really started listening to a guitar and hearing all the sounds that it can make, just the metallic strings and the sound of fingers on the string and strumming and picking, that really caught my ear. I wanted to know.
Yeah, I think like a very different thing from like the flute and the saxophone you mentioned. It's like almost I would say like all kinds of the wind instruments. They can only play one note at a single time. So it's like very different from like guitar or like piano.
Yeah.
So why is the music education or like the teaching is very important for the both individuals and our society for the music education. So your teaching and like your teaching experience and maybe a little bit of your experience of being a music student before.
Sure. I definitely have opinions about it. Well, okay. I have several answers to this. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
I think, so the way that I teach is very individualized. I try to customize it to each student, and it's because everybody learns differently, or everybody like gravitates towards some part of. There's something about music that they're excited about, but it might be different from you, but it might be different from me. Like what it is that they like, and I think that the way that music is traditionally taught, or at least in my education, was very has a tendency to be very Eurocentric. So we're just learning about like classical music from Europe, or like Western pop and rock music. But it tends to be very kind of limited in scope. It tends to have a lot of I don't know. I'm just thinking of like some method books that I learned from where it teaches you the notes. It teaches you a very simple song to play, but it might not be the music that is exciting to practice. So like for me, I have a hard time making myself practice if I'm bored by what it is that I'm learning. And maybe that's true for everybody.
Yeah.
So, and I have, I just remember like times in my education where like I did not connect with the material, and so I was not motivated to learn it or practice it. And so some of that's on me. You have to develop discipline to practice. But also, I think as a teacher, I really want to find the way to connect with my student so that they are excited to explore on their own. I feel like so much of the growth of musical development happens outside of the lesson. Like maybe they come to me a half hour a week and then we talk about like chords and stuff like that. But most of the work they have to do on their own. So I want to make it exciting enough for them to want to do it, or like give them a question that they're excited to answer. I also feel like, and maybe this stop me if I go too far off topic, but I feel like there is an attitude in the United States that if you are not good enough at your instrument to make money doing it, that you shouldn't do it. And I disagree with that. I think that like music as a way of exploring and expressing yourself is really valuable. Like everybody connects with music, or I feel like for the most part everybody connects with music, and a lot of times people feel like, well, I shouldn't do that because I'm not good at it. And to me, it doesn't matter. Like, be bad at it, but do it. It's a good way to explore your own creativity. It's a good way to express yourself. If you've got like, big feelings that are hard to talk about, maybe you could write a song about it, and nobody else has to hear the song, but it still gives you something to have made this thing. So that's what I hope to give to my students. And it's also something that I'm always looking for myself, of like, I can't always find the answers for what is stirring my emotions from other people or from external sources. A lot of answers in life you have to find inside, and music is a good way to do an inventory. If you can sit with an instrument and just make sounds by yourself, there's a lot to dive into there. And so my hope is that I can, by learning what my students are interested in and learning about them, I can help them realize that they already have the tools to explore. It doesn't matter if they can't play like Jimi Hendrix. I can't either, and it's not particularly a goal of mine, but I still love to pick up the guitar, and lots of my students like to write their own songs and start bands and stuff like that. So my goal, I guess, as a teacher, it's important to me to help people feel empowered to write music, because it's a very freeing thing that just belongs to you once you can do it. Once you know you can do it, you can just do it forever. I struggled in music school in undergrad. When I was in guitar school, I dropped out a couple of times. I did not, for a while, it made me not want to play guitar. Because I was struggling in some of the critical, the critical classes. So to a certain extent, like being in music school really complicated my relationship with music, because there was now this thing of get good grades, be efficient, you got to graduate in 4 years, and you're paying money the whole time. And so if I failed at something, I felt like, oh, I shouldn't do this at all. Like it could be very adversarial sometimes.
Like, what if I choose something else and
Maybe
just
I should
leave the music as my hobby?
Yeah, but the very positive thing that I took from it was the friends I made in music school. I'd say maybe the community aspect of it was a positive thing. Not the classes all the time, but the people that I met, who, like in guitar school, we were all just obsessed with guitar and like loved it and would spend hours and hours by ourselves playing. Sometimes we play together and we'd do a master class together, or play, help each other study and play pieces together and start quartets and all of these different things. And I still hang out with those people. I mean, I've known them I've been out of school for like 20 years and I still hang out with some of those people. And I think it was because we were all passionate about music and met each other that those relationships became kind of their own thing. And so maybe that was the thing I took from music school was like, now I know these people and I play music with these people. So even if I didn't like that class, I met this person who was really cool and we jammed and now we were in a band together. Yeah, it's sort of this thing of like, you're in school to become proficient at this thing and maybe make money at it. But I think the pressures of capitalism are not, that is not the most fertile soil for music as a personal exploration or music as a spiritual pursuit. I think, that's not always the best pressure for it sometimes, but not to say that there's not like great commercial music either. I mean, I'm interested, honestly, I'm really interested. I don't know a whole lot about making electronic music and making like sampled music, but to me, that's like, maybe I'm wrong, but like it could be a challenge for you as a musician because that music is not necessarily respected by the Institute as the same as classical music or jazz.
I agree.
Yeah, but you see the potential and you know the joy of pursuing that music and how complex it is and how much goes into making a composition out of it. Maybe at a certain point jazz was the same way where the institutions did not see the value in this music, but now they do. So do it anyway is what I think. But I don't know if I'm straying too far. Help me get back on topic. Yeah, the having a formal education in music. Sometimes people will say to me, I don't want to learn music theory because I don't want it to restrict my creativity. And I can understand why they might feel that, why they might be afraid of that because of how it's presented and because of how it is formally taught sometimes, where it's not individualized or it's not necessarily in tune with music that is happening now and is new and cutting edge, but my hope as a teacher and just as a musician is to help somebody take from music theory what will allow them to describe what they want to do. Like, it shouldn't, or like, ideally, the way that you are taught music or whatever art doesn't restrict your creativity. It gives you a vocabulary to explain it or to describe it so that you can get even more detail.
You mentioned that your like the music teaching is kind to teach people to express themselves, to be individualized. But at the same time, the music is somehow very community based. And how do you think like can people connect it from that aspect? Because for example, like I play or like I listen to my music. I experience my music and my personality with music when I'm alone.
Yeah.
And you experience a very different type of music when you're alone. But at the same time, we both have these feelings of like, being musical and maybe spiritual with music.
Yeah.
And that makes something potential for us to talk about or like communicate together.
Yeah.
And maybe somehow share our feelings. But
It seems like to be in a very controversial way, but um, at the same time, it seems like it is working out somehow. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And how do you think the music is connecting to, um, like it is connecting people together if that is very individualized at the same time?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the connection happens in lots of different ways. Like, we have different instruments, maybe, or different genres of music that we're interested in, but are connecting on the experience of, maybe exploring, or like, um, I think, let me think about this for a moment. So, my earliest experience of community music, maybe is church, I guess, and hearing people sing together. And that being kind of like an overwhelming thing as a little child to hear all the voices together and feeling, I guess, just feeling overwhelmed by it. Like, maybe that's the spiritual feeling, is going like, whoa, it's big. What is it? I don't know. And like always, and I think I experienced that at a very young age, where just like what I was hearing, maybe people harmonizing or something, was really affecting and made me want to cry, and I didn't know why. Not in a bad way, but just in a like, whoa, it's big. And so some part of me is always looking for that. That was like an early experience. And then I'm playing in like concert band as a little kid, just playing flute and having to try and play with other people so that we're making something together and feeling very like, even if it was just like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, but like doing it and having it sound like music, being very rewarding, being like really excited that there are all these different sounds, but we're making something together. I think in like just in a very functional like ensemble sort of way, that's very satisfying for me. But also, I think at the point that music is also such a strong identity thing. I'm just thinking about my own childhood when I started playing guitar and getting really, really obsessed with guitar. Like, I had other friends who liked Led Zeppelin or whatever, and we were sort of like grouped together and we dressed a certain way. It was very tied to identity, even if it was very like crude. So to me, music always has the ability to take me out of isolation and into community. Even if I'm by myself, if I'm feeling very isolated and in a bad way, not solitude, but like isolation, like being alone, music helps me not feel that way. If I'm just listening to music, it helps me feel connected to something larger than myself. When I have taught ensemble, well, as a teacher in a group setting, I've also had the experience of like teaching a group of young people to play a song together in guitar ensemble and seeing them get excited when they nail it, because even little kids, they know what music sounds like, and when they can do it, they get excited about it. I have volunteered in the Richmond jail. There was a music studio that was available for inmates to come in and make music. They could learn to record. They could, write a song and record it and stuff like that. And whoever else was in that group could like contribute to it. And so the people that I worked with the women in that group, and we just met for once a week, but it was really important to people to come and express themselves, and everybody would sort of, build each other up, like help uplift and help them create this thing that they wanted to create, so that we could record it. And so I think it just has this ability to unify. I don't know what was going on with those folks socially outside of that, but when we were in the room together in the studio, we were working on music together, and everybody was like really into it. I've also worked a lot with senior citizens, like teaching ukulele. That's an instrument that is very popular to play in a big group. They're really tiny and everybody can sing and it's fun. It's kind of like a choir. The chords are easy. And working with senior citizens who, where it was like a big social outlet for them, that meant a lot to people. Like that were in my group where like we meet up once a week and everybody like that's like a fun time to see your friends and build something together and learn, and maybe you play the same song every week, but it's okay. It's like I want to come together and like and do this. I've traveled to play music. I lived in Indonesia for a year in Central Java, and it was really amazing to me that even though like I struggled with the language, if I was just like having to ask for things and shop and do these things, but if I got together with musicians, we could just jam. Like I was in a band, I was in a rock band, and I didn't speak the same language as everybody, but we could play music together, and that was really beautiful. And it was a way like I made friends just with music. Like it was really, it was like more powerful. It was just very powerful to go like, okay, here I am, very far from home. I cannot speak Javanese, but I can be in a rock band and we can play some rock music together. Or like learning gamelan, where that was a big community thing. Like the community comes together and plays together. And even though I was a stranger, people were very welcoming and I could fit in and we could make this thing together. So yeah, I guess the community aspect of music, it operates on so many levels. You can, it's a personal exploration, but it also is a way to connect with other people, or maybe maybe multiple humans can become one thing through music, and that's how we do it. I think that's how it hits me on a spiritual level. It's like or a spiritual, whatever you want to call it, but like music is this, as far as I know, uniquely human thing. The way that we go about it, whatever your instrument is, and it's a very healthy thing to do. It feels very like, I don't know, it just feels like cleansing. I don't know exactly why. I could wonder about it for eternity, but I guess in practice, what I have seen happen is people become more empowered and feel stronger in themselves through playing music with other people. The other thing I'll say about it is that I think it's, if you're trying to get better at playing music, doing it with other people makes that happen faster. Even if it's just, it could be that you're getting together to play a song, but something about the community, something about coming together and becoming part of a larger whole makes personal musicianship kind of speed up. You level up faster. I don't know why, but I guess it's like speaking. Like babies, they don't speak perfectly. They go goo goo gaga for a while, and you just talk to them and you baby talk, and then they kind of get good at it. But you pick up on what each other is saying. I think music is the same. Like, especially if you're playing it with like multiple different experience levels. Yeah.
So can you talk about like how your like your trans experience, like your like gender identity, and like how is your music experience is kind of related to that part of your life?
Sure. So I'll just say I identify as non-binary. I'm transmasculine, which means that I take testosterone, I guess, however you want to say it. And so I'll say one thing about like just being a guitarist. Sometimes I think that here's what my actual gender is. It's guitarist, because that's what I do. Like that's the part of me that like is very consistent, or that I identify very strongly with. Growing up, so I've been playing guitar since I was maybe like 13, and it's always, my experience of it was always, it's a very male-dominated community. Like guitar is for like dudes, and like or just like that's how it was presented to me. So a lot of times
rock music.
Yeah, just being like a place for the guys. Even though there's like so many female like rock musicians and guitarists who are just shredders. That's just true. But like in terms of visibility, or like going into a guitar center and being treated like I knew what I was talking about, it was kind of a struggle. That's not why I transitioned, but it's like part of my guitarist journey. So it's been interesting to, especially like working in guitar stores, to kind of go from this experience of being treated like I didn't know what I was talking about because I looked like a woman. Even though like I had all this experience, I'd been to school about, like having a lot of experience, but sort of being treated differently because of this perception of the guitar as like this masculine thing. And I think that's changing. That's changed a lot since the 90s anyway, but it could change some more, I think. So one thing that has been interesting to me in recent years is like working in a music shop or working in the field of guitar and having transitioned and looking masculine, changing the level of respect that I'm given. It really just sort of like confirms my suspicion, which was that people were just treating me weird because they thought I was a woman, And so like that's something I'm very conscious of in like the workplace, as like there are women and non-male identifying people in the guitar world who are just incredible, and there's still being this thing of like very male visibility, that being something that needs to change. A really great experience for me was teaching at the Girls Rock Camp, which was something that happened in Richmond. It's for middle schoolers, for trans and female identifying middle schoolers, to come together for like a week, and they pick instruments and they form a band, and at the end of the week they write a song and they perform a punk show. And it was so great because we talked a lot about like gender identity and and consent and how to be a good bandmate and all of these things. And it was this space that was very like, did not feel like kind of the same sort of restrictive, very male dominated space that like I was in as a kid. So that's been one interesting thing, is to sort of like have my perceived role kind of flip. So for me, being conscious of that and how I treat, people who walk into the guitar shop, a guitarist is a guitarist. They love guitar, like, and should be treated as such. And so that's something I try to like really hold on to and exemplify, because I've experienced, I've been in experiences that didn't feel good because I was just being treated, like I didn't belong there. And so I feel very strongly about like, it should be welcoming. And if you love guitar, that's what matters. The other thing that's been interesting just as a musician recently is that, so over the pandemic, I started taking testosterone to transition, and my voice changed. So my voice dropped a lot. And so it's been interesting to have this be an ongoing thing where like I'm having to every so often recalibrate my sense of where my own voice is, because it shifts. And so it can be very, like I sing in the bands that I play in, most of the time backup, but every once in a while I'll be like the lead voice on something. And so that's been an interesting way for me to have to like very intentionally explore myself and keep checking in, is because my range has changed. And so how do I can sing things I couldn't before, and I also can't sing some things that I could. And so I have to kind of, very actively like explore that and be comfortable with my voice and learn where it's going. So this is, I think it's interesting. It's not, I don't feel like good or bad about it. I just think it's interesting. I recorded, and I can send it to you, but I recorded a cover song that's on Spotify.
Yeah.
That I recorded just because I knew my voice was changing and I wanted to get a little snapshot of where it was. It's a Thin Lizzy song called Cowboy Song that I just thought was neat. So trying to challenge myself to do things like that, to kind of like see how I sound, because every once in a while I'll be surprised. So yeah, but honestly, for the most part, I still play, like the bandmates, the people that I've played music with over the years, I still play music with. It's still me. We still jam together. My transitioning has not changed many things, because the people I'm in community with,
like they're always there.
They're always there, and they know me. These small changes are not like the core of my being. If I stopped playing guitar, that'd be weird. But yeah, I still feel accepted by my community and very comfortable, which is great. And I think some of that too is that like Richmond my experience of Richmond has been a welcoming place to make those changes. There's a big LGBT community. There's a big trans community here, and a supportive one, I feel like. And just in general, the music community in Richmond, there's so much going on here. There's such a diverse, like, I feel like fairly clued into what's going on, and I know that I'm missing like 60% of what's going on in the city. There's so many different types of music, so many amazing musicians that are here, that there's just no end to what you can explore. I'm in bands now with people that I've seen in other bands for years and respect, and like thought it was really cool what they were doing. And now to get to play with them, like in Piranha, like everybody's been in other rock bands, and so now we're together playing, and it's been it's really cool to kind of get to know people on a creating something together level when I already really admire what they do. But as for Richmond, it's such a musical city. It's not always easy to make a living as a musician, but there is music happening. And so I encourage everyone to explore if you can. Yeah.
I think that's all
Okay.
for
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.